Hello and welcome to this Crucible tips video. This video is aimed for the average player ranging anywhere from a .80 KD or lower, so sorry 360 quad feed no scopers, this isn't the video for you. First and foremost, I do not believe I am the greatest Cruci player, and I know that there are some incredibly talented players out there, but through my playstyle I was able to overcome not just being a below average player, but even improving my effectiveness in-game through a physical disability involving my hands. Based on this fact, I believe being a better player isn't about how good you are on the controller, but how to utilize battlefield information. So without further ado, here are my tips. Also, in case you are familiar with the topic I'm going over, I will include chapter times in the description in case you want to skip ahead. First, my playstyle consists of mostly defensive strategies and is more adapted to objective game types, especially control. I am not a run and gun type of rush player. This was to compensate for my lack of dexterity and fast twitch skills on the controller. Instead, I try to control the fight by using my knowledge of map spawnings and manipulating those spawns in my favor. I combine this tactic with strong defensive positions where I use key locations on the map such as objectives to bait in enemies to my lines of sight. So the first important bullet I'll go over is spawning and how it works. One of the most important skills you can have is the ability to predict which direction the enemy is approaching and whether or not the area you're in is too dangerous to remain in. This can be done with a basic understanding of how respawning works. On each map, there are dedicated spawn locations for each team. There are a few situations that dictate where the enemy will spawn, but the main factor is where the majority of players on the opposite team are located on the map. Take for example the map Asylum. This is a pretty easy map to predict spawn locations due to it being almost symmetrical. To make things easier, I'll use the game type control as a backdrop to help further divide the map into less confusing sectors. Now let's say you have control on flag B and C. This automatically lets you know that you're in control of those two sectors and that any enemy respawning from death will come from that direction of a flag. Now, there is a phenomenon that a lot of new players don't realize about, and it's that of a spawn flip. If you are a player who is always getting killed from behind, this may be the primary reason. So a spawn flip is when the enemy team starts to spawn at a different location of the map than they were previously. This occurs when the majority of your team pushes into the enemy spawn territory. For example, if you control B and C, but the majority of your team, usually more than half, enters the A sector, the enemy team will probably start to spawn on the furthest opposite sector, which in this example will be C. Therefore, the enemy team will now start attacking you from behind. Now that you are familiar with this concept, you can now predict a spawn flip and always be on guard. The best way to avoid this is to not allow more than a few players on your team into the enemy spawn. This can allow you to almost trap the opposing team at a certain side of the map, and this is truly the real goal. Now that you have some idea of how spawns work, how do you utilize this to a fighting advantage? Depending on the game type, there are usually objectives, and it is these objectives that dictates the likely paths an enemy would take to capture this point. For example, on the game type control, B flag is usually the neutral team flag that both teams strive for. Because capturing two flags is almost vital to win the match, it is guaranteed enemy forces will be converging or defending this location heavier than any other location on the map. Take note of these routes and defend them by setting up in what I'd like to call power positions. Power positions for me are defensive positions on the map that give you an excellent sight on an objective or path that leads to an objective and puts you in an excellent position to defend it. This location should have plenty of cover and maybe an escape route or two just in case you have to fall back. A decent example of a power position would be the catwalk overlooking B flag on the map Anomaly. In this example, the B flag is synonymous with bait. Watch as relentless numbers of enemy combatants throw their bodies on top of the B flag only for me and my team to pick them off one by one. Utilizing these positions can help prevent an enemy team from capturing a point or help your team to secure it. Now for the sort of disclaimer to this strategy and how you can ensure your success. This strategy works best with a full team of cooperating individuals, but I am aware of the situation that some players out there may not have many others to play with. With this style, I'd say that its weakest attributes are that it relies too much on teammates to watch enemy flank routes, and after a while, these power positions become predictable. In a situation where you are braving the Crucible on your own, utilizing the same strategy can still prove very effective. The slow defensive nature should allow for minimum death so as long as you are aware of your current surroundings. For this, I have a few tips. Always keep an eye on your radar and where your teammates are located. This should give you a good idea of how close the enemy is to your current location, so you can be ready to counter their assault if they get too close. Your teammate's position can help you dictate where enemies will respawn, and friendly death markers can help you determine how hostile a certain point on the map is. When venturing alone in the Crucible, allowing teammates to go on ahead of you can often be beneficial to your own survival. Also be familiar with the flank routes of your current position and what range of combat that route might be. For example, is it a small corridor where a shotgunner can run up on you from behind? Or is it a long hallway to your side that snipers can easily pick you off while you're busy defending B? In any case, you should complement your special secondary weapon to your primary style. If you're like me, I prefer more mid to long range primaries such as the Messenger Pulse Rifle or the Hawkman hand cannon, so the obvious choice for me is probably a shotgun in case someone decides to come in close. In any case, there will always be a moment when you just have to run and fall back. Don't hesitate to retreat and reposition yourselves. I have far too often seen a player run headlong into a 2 versus 1 situation only to die twice as fast. Even on one-on-one situations, if you feel you are losing the gunfight, just take cover and allow your shield to regenerate. Sometimes your aim is off or the connection isn't as stable, causing your bullets to miss. Whatever the case, just run. Live to fight another day. Remember, the name of the game for this strategy is to control the flow of the battlefield by keeping your enemy on one side of the map while using objective points to lure enemies into your sights. Some may complain that this playstyle may be too passive, and I admit it is, but from my experience, momentum usually shifts towards the team that dies least. Using the strategy with a full team, we usually have a high success rate, even on more strenuous playlists such as Iron Banner. There were even times we won matches where, for the majority, we only controlled one flag. This is a basic breakdown of my playstyle in the Crucible. Again, this is what I did to improve. Before even my injury, I always thought the better the controls, the better the reaction time, the better you'd become as a player. But even though I have these physical limitations, by switching to a more slow defensive fighting style, I have never been a better player than I am today. I hope you enjoyed this tips video, and for those who might be struggling out there in the Crucible, maybe all you have to do is slow down. Have a good one, and enjoy the rest of the gameplay. Also, stay till the end for a sexy surprise. Ooh. I went Unbroken.